The 76ers under investigation already for resting players. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. Now that the NBA season is underway, we're bringing you the best around the league every day. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, the 76ers are already in hot water. They open the season tonight. Marquee matchup against the Milwaukee Bucks. National TV, no Joel Embiid, no Paul George. What a dud for one of the NBA's most exciting teams this offseason, making big moves. How are we feeling about this?
Yeah, I can understand it from, the perspective of fans of the team. That you don't want to see your guys going out there getting hurt in the first game of the season. But I can also understand it from the perspective of the NBA as well, where they've got a policy to uphold, and they want to, at least for the first game, the opening day for a lot of these teams, to be able to say we put our best product out there. And having a star like Joel and Paul not participating it's not great. So it definitely is pretty weird, and this may be a sign of things to come for this team.
So according to Shams Charania of ESPN now, the NBA is expected to open an investigation now to the 76ers because the NBA does have a policy out that prevents teams without approval from resting multiple star players in the same game or sitting healthy ones in national TV or in-season tournament games. So there's a special emphasis on nationally televised games. The NBA recognizes that, hey, these games that we put on national TV, these are our marquee matchups. These are the games that we're going to get. All the casual fans are going to watch too, not just the diehards. We want to make sure we're putting forth our best product here. And so teams can get a fine of over $1 million if they have a multiple violation. I mean, this is serious money that the NBA can fine teams for violating these policies and resting players. Obviously, the NBA not thrilled that the 76ers guys are not going to be playing in tonight's game. And on top of that, in Shams reporting, they also mentioned that the NBA is looking at the fact that Embiid didn't play at all in preseason, and they called it left knee left knee injury management, and is expected to miss not one but 3 games this week to start the season. And Embiid already said that he doesn't think he'll play back-to-backs again for the rest of his career. Not that this is the first game of the season, though. This isn't even a back-to-back, and he's already out. What do you think about this strategy by the 76ers? I mean, obviously, like Paul George had an injury. It wasn't a significant one. I mean, he hyperextended his knee a little bit, but it wasn't terrible. But the 76ers seem to be bubble wrapping their players. And to me, I wish there was a way to flex this game now off of national television, because what a downer. You don't have Embiid. You don't have Paul George for this big matchup. Thoughts on this situation?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like I said a second ago, the NBA has rules and you've got to follow those rules. So it's just kind of weird in terms of like them or Joel saying he may never play another back-to-back in his career. Now, this isn't a back-to-back right now, and obviously they have been managing him for this up to this point anyway. But I think more in general is the NBA is looking at it like, okay, come on, guys, like we have to be in on whatever plan you're doing here, and it has to fit our criteria as well. You can't just say this guy's all of a sudden going to be bubble wrapped all year, play 50 games over the course of the season, 60 games, whatever it is. And that's by design, right? We talked about it recently in videos, and a lot of that also applies to Paul George because I think they're going to handle them largely the same. We recently talked about how, they're kind of trying to catch lightning in a bottle here and do that 2018 Raptors thing where they did that with Kawhi and they were able to come out on top. Obviously, a few bounces went their way ultimately against the Sixers, ironically.
One really big one.
Yeah, they came out on top that year, and they let Kawhi kind of have carte blanche whenever he decided to play. And that year kind of showed that it can work. However, if you follow with Kawhi after that for the next few years, it doesn't seem to go the same way. So I'm not really sure. I think that if done properly, it could be the right decision if you're the organization. But from the NBA standpoint, they really tried over the course of the last couple of years where load management was getting out of hand. I remember when these started to really getting enforced, and the last couple of years, load management got out of hand, and they definitely were saying, hey, yeah, we need to knock this out. The 2-star thing was definitely pretty interesting. And so I think that may be a bit of it too, is that we've got this opening night game. You got 2 stars out. We can't have this happening. But again, long term as well.
Exactly. It's the long-term plan here that has to be a factor here for the team. The reporting is that Joel Embiid has lost 25 to 30 pounds to take some of that weight off his knee. That's fantastic. That's great. If you're having knee issues, drop weight, that's going to help. And he plans to lose even more. He only played 39 games last season. He has a long history of injuries. But if you're the NBA, the reality is, as much as I love Tyrese Maxey, he's phenomenal. He's a great player. Maxey versus Giannis tonight on ESPN. It doesn't have the same ring as former MVP Embiid versus former MVP Giannis. Paul George, there's name recognition there. You need to get those eyeballs on the product. And Tyrese Maxey right now is not, and I think he will be at some point. Right now, he doesn't have that status. So if you're the NBA, you're trying to promote this thing, especially right now. This is when you capture viewers. This is when there's excitement around the NBA. This is where you get the casual fans start tuning back into the league and going, oh, what's happening? The NBA is starting again, and you want those viewers to watch all the way throughout. It's so much of the NBA's plan. It's the reason why they have the in-season tournament to, again, get viewers locked in early, now called the NBA Cup. Get them fired up early, give them a reason to watch in October, in November. It's also why we have the play-in tournament, so that fans feel like their team is in it longer. So all the way through March, you can say, well, my team could make the play-in. Maybe we're right there. And then maybe it is at the end of March or something. Your team drops out or something like that. They don't want fans in November or December to say, we're the 11th seed. That's it. We don't have a chance. I'm going to check out. Talk to me next year. They want to keep audience captivated. And you can't do that without the stars out there on the court. So it is a very fine line they have to walk. They want their guys out there. They also want their guys to stay healthy. And sometimes those things are a bit counterintuitive with each other. They don't really go together. You mentioned Kawhi. So there was some news out on Kawhi Leonard. And here's what's going on with that situation now, because he is the center of all of this load management stuff. You mentioned what happened with the Raptors. Obviously, the Clippers tried a bunch of things that didn't work. So here's the latest on the Kawhi Leonard situation, which is also worth watching as the Clippers are getting ready to open their new arena. This is Kawhi's status with his knee.
We know no Kawhi tonight. When could we see him make his debut?
I'm told Kawhi Leonard will be missing weeks. This is not an injury that's going to be measured by a week, 2 weeks, potentially, not days, obviously. This will be an extended period of time that the Clippers are starting this season without him. But I'm told they feel that they have a plan and a protocol in place that will allow him, when he is ready to return, to actually sustain his play on the court. And in the meantime, it's going to be about James Harden leading this team. He told me he knows Kawhi Leonard wants to play every game, wants to play as much as he possibly can. But they know Kawhi Leonard, when he's they can't have him be in and out like he was in the playoffs, like he was late last season. They need him because that's the only way this team is going to compete for a championship. Yep. James Harden is ready. He's primed. He's been a leader. And I think we'll see how far he can lead this team.
So this is another situation now, Donnie, where you've got a player where the NBA would love to promote. Kawhi Leonard's in action. And instead, you can't do that. Now, the Clippers do have James Harden, and that gives you somebody else. But now it's Kawhi's going to be out weeks. How did he almost play for the U.S. Olympic team, and now he's not ready for the NBA season and isn't going to play for weeks? Now, the Clippers say we have a return-to-play plan. We've got a plan that we think is going to keep. They've had plans for years. I hope this works. I hope this is finally it. But I'll believe it when I see it, because so far everything they've tried, it hasn't mattered. The end result has been the same. Kawhi Leonard gets hurt.
Yeah, it's just so unfortunate. I think, we don't know so much about Joel if this applies to him, but with Kawhi, him having this degenerate issue, he's always going to have these types of problems. And with him, it doesn't appear that you can really do anything in particular, like specific to make it to where he's healthy. And then when you get him through the season, he's still had injuries in the postseason where you wouldn't want that to happen, obviously. So it just feels like they've largely done whatever they can. It's just, like you said, kind of weird because he was on track to play in the Olympics. Maybe he was pushing himself and, wasn't fully capable of playing in the Olympics, but wanted to try to play with those guys, and probably got that was probably his last chance to win an Olympic medal as well. So maybe that was part of it too. And, I feel like maybe that could have been a factor there and why he might have, expended himself a little bit more. So in this circumstance, though, I think that the Clippers are going to try to take it slow. I don't know that they've said, hey, Kawhi, we'll just sit you for the first 20 games and then shoot you in after that. I don't know if that's been a strategy they've tried before, but it seems like that could be what happens this time around. But regardless, I don't really know what the trajectory is with this team, even with him out there, unless he's peak Kawhi and able to carry them. I don't really know what the trajectory is, and I think that's asking a bit much, given the injury history, how it's been for him. But I will say he's phenomenal still while he's out there, so maybe he can propel this team. But nonetheless, there's going to be a lot on James' shoulders and the other guys there. But the Kawhi situation, it's just really never going to go away. It's never really going to get better. It's never going to be a situation where you can get him out there for most or all of the season and really have him as a part of the team. So they want to make it to where he's not in and out of the lineup. So again, maybe they just are like, hey, we can give him a few weeks here, a month, whatever it is at the start of the season, give him time because there was some swelling recently. And after that, hopefully he's good to go. So we'll see what happens.
The NBA, they need these guys out on the court. They need the ratings. They need the eyeballs on these teams. They need the competitive games going on. And the players themselves, they say, we're not quite ready in these situations. This is going to be something worth watching all season long, especially with the 76ers promising to be so aggressive in resting Embiid, resting Paul George, not playing them in back-to-back. Even though the NBA has cut down on back-to-backs, they've cut down on travel. They're doing everything they can. And there's a lot of former players that are bristling at this, at guys like Embiid not playing as much of this. You go back and you look at some of the players. Look at, Shaq playing so many games and so many minutes, playing 40-plus minutes. You go back decades before that. You look at Kareem, the amount he played. The guys like that see what's going on with Embiid, and they're like, man, what is this guy doing? He's not going to play. I mean, it gets but at the same time, I understand the Sixers' point. They need these guys healthy, and if this is the way to do it, then so be it. You got to be healthy for the postseason. But I'm really curious to know what everybody else thinks. So let me know in the comment section, what do you think about the aggressive policies here by the 76ers, by the Clippers, doing what they can to take their oft-injured stars, rest them, even at the beginning of the season when the NBA really needs to capture audiences? What do you think about their decision to do that? Let us know in the comment section down below. Donnie, thanks again for jumping on. This was awesome.
Sure thing, man. Anytime. And I got to say, like I said earlier, we did talk about similar topics earlier. So you can find that video on the screen right now.